This GeographyBurst video will look at describing the effects of Typhoon Haiyan. Use page 28 to 29 of your textbook to support this video. First, we will look at how a storm forms. Then we will look at how they are measured. And finally, we will look at the difference between primary and secondary effects according to Typhoon Haiyan. So what is a tropical storm? Step 1. Thunderstorms begin to form through evaporation of lakes, rivers, oceans, etc. This cools and condenses to form clouds and storms in the normal way. Step 2. The normal Coriolis movement of the earth causes the thunderstorms to spin. As the storm crosses the ocean, they collect more moisture and therefore more power. When the sea temperatures are above 27 degrees, it adds even more power and is starting to become a tropical storm. The pressure drops in the middle of this spinning storm to form a cloudless, calm eye of the storm. This size of the eye is around 100 kilometers wide. In comparison to the 450 to 550 kilometer wide storm itself. Step 5. The storm continues to collect moisture and add power, causing winds to top 75 miles per hour. The storm is now known as a tropical storm and will continue to increase to a size of a maximum 5 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. So that is how storms are measured on the Saffir-Simpson scale, using wind speeds. Category 1 has a wind speed of 75 miles per hour. Category 2 storms have 96 miles per hour winds, and Category 3 storms have 111 miles per hour winds. Category 4 will have more than 131 miles per hour winds, and Category 5 will have more than 156 miles per hour winds. Typhoon Haiyan was classed as a Category 5 storm because it had wind speeds of more than 156 miles per hour. So Typhoon Haiyan effects. The primary effects can be thought of as short-term or immediate effects. They occur straight after the storm, for example, buildings collapsing and people drowning. Secondary effects can be thought of as longer-term effects. These effects occur as a result of the primary effects but last a lot longer in time. For example, homelessness for many years. Describe. Say what you see. What are the key facts which you already know, and outline them clearly. Describe the primary and secondary effects of a tropical storm you have studied. For 9 marks. In my opinion, this is a much easier question structure than we normally study. For example, we normally follow a describe, explain the opposite, and evaluate question for 9 marks. However, this one is just describing, so technically much easier. However, most people lose marks because they don't clearly reference the difference between primary and secondary effects. Sometimes they miss out the detailed specifics because they don't know their case study in detail. So this is why we now need to remember describing the primary and secondary effects includes a clear differentiation between primary and secondary and distinct Typhoon Haiyan specifics. So, describe. As we said before, we describe what a primary effect is, and that is something that happens as a direct result of the tropical storm. For example, the number of deaths. In this case, it was 6,300 people. A secondary effect is something that happens over a period of time, such as weeks or months after the storm, as an indirect effect. 6 million people losing their income, affecting them for years to come, is a great example of a secondary effect, and it is specific to Typhoon Haiyan. Next, I would then describe in a little bit more detail what those primary effects were in the Philippines as a result of Typhoon Haiyan. So, over 600,000 people becoming displaced and 40,000 homes damaged or flattened, and 90% of Tacloban city was destroyed. Our specific examples from Typhoon Haiyan case study. I would then continue with the secondary effects. Again, very specific and factual. The fact that 14 million people in total were affected, many were left homeless for the foreseeable future with shortages of food and water, which leads to outbreaks of disease as well as looting and violence from these desperate people, are another couple of specific effects, secondary effects, very clearly labelled. Geography. Know your world.